It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this. I got my head in the zone, you know. I'm on the Morning Star Drive, you know.
Hey, how's it going? It is Wednesday, November 25th, and this is the Morning Star Drive on 117.8. We're on YouTube, so make sure to subscribe, follow us on SoundCloud, and make sure to support us on Patreon. Now, today we'll get some coronavirus updates. A third vaccine reaches 90% efficacy, Ethiopian conflicts, US election updates, and realizing from the Tuesday morning message. So, how are you guys doing today? It is Wednesday, the middle of the week, and I'm just thankful for all of you joining us here on the Morning Star Drive. Looking forward to an awesome, great songs tonight. We're going to hear the stories behind the great songs, so let's start this day well with the Morning Star Drive. Just want to remind everyone, keep liking and commenting. I want to hear from you guys and see how you're doing. Write your questions, requests, and testimonies. Also, remember, this week's Sunday edition, I interviewed Mike Mont from New York, so make sure to catch that interview. And next Sunday edition, we'll be meeting a member from New Zealand who is from New Zealand, but also half Canadian, so I half love him. So look forward to another inspiring interview. Oh yeah, and we had open Bible study on Monday night again. We learned the Judgment of Fire lecture, so that lecture is posted on Patreon. And yes, I got some great comments just yesterday. Thank you so much for Yen Yu in Singapore. She's the one, she commented and said, hey, your date and your episode number is wrong. And I checked, it's like, oh man, it was the same as Mondays. The Tuesday one was the same as a Monday, so I had to fix that one up too. So if you guys ever catch those things also, go ahead and just write it in the comments. All right, cool. So that brings us into today's show, and let's get into the featured artist of the day. Today's featured artist is from Japan. It is RJR, Rising Japan Radio, and this song, not to be confused with Mariah Henry's Mariah Henry featuring CeCe. That song is called Universe. This one also is called Universe. All right, so that's RJR, Rising Japan Radio. Secondly, we're going to hear from PGY from the Paper Music Associates in Korea, and that song is called Dr. Rain. And last but not least, we have Francis Han, Taiwanese, but living in New York right now with his amazing jazz band, and we're going to hear the song One's Way Back. All right, everyone, as usual, let's just make sure we support our member artists from around the world making amazing music, and let's just, more than anything else, of course, we can listen to their music, buy their albums, and, share them and let other people know, but I think the most important one, more than anything else, is through prayer. And that is Francis Han from New York with his jazz band, and that one is One's Way Back. Before that, PGY from the Paper Music Associates in Korea. It looks like that song was featuring Zeniac too, and that song is Dr. Rain. And our featured artist of the day was RJR, Rising Japan Radio, and that song was Universe. All right, so let's get into the coronavirus updates for today. In the world at the moment, 59.5 million cases, which means we're going to be hitting 60 million I should probably hit 65 by the end of the week. So it's 59.5 million cases, 1.4 million deaths, and the mortality rate remains at 2.36%. US also 12.7 million cases, 263,000 deaths at 2.06%, and their mortality rate has gone down. India 9.1 million cases, 134,000 deaths at 1.46%. Brazil, 6 million cases, 169,000 deaths at 2.78%. Russia in fourth with 2.1 million cases, 36,000 deaths at 1.73%. UK, 1.5 million cases, 55,000 deaths at 3.62%. And Italy at 1.4 million cases, 50,000 deaths at 3.52%. So all of the top six we have here, all their cases are over the million person mark. Sweden remains at 3.08%, or actually they went down. Oh no, they remain the same. And it is Belgium. Once again, their mortality rate goes up by 0.01% to 2.81%. Daily infection rates, let's take a look at the US on top as usual, by far with 172,000 cases at 1%. India at 37,000 cases. Russia, 25,000 cases in a day at a 1% growth. And Italy, 22,000 cases at 2%. Brazil at 16,000 cases in a day. And the UK rounds off the top six for daily infection rates at 15,000 cases at a 1% growth rate. In Southeast Asia, where I'm in right now, Indonesia, 4,400 cases in a day. And then the Philippines and Malaysia are now tied, right? Even though the Philippines have probably doubled the population, the Philippines at about 1,800 cases in a day. And Malaysia has a little bit more with 1,884 cases in a single day. So that's really, really big for Malaysia. I don't see this lockdown ending or slowing down anytime soon. So that's the coronavirus updates for today. So we're going to get into the current news, and there's a bunch of things going on in the world. And we're going to start off with something that's happening in Africa, which is in Ethiopia. Okay, so sources are saying that the Ethiopian conflict may reach an end very, very soon. So they say maybe even within days. The conflict, which is in northwestern Ethiopia, the region is called Tigray. Right, I believe it's Tigray or Tigray, and they might reach, they say, could reach a bloody climax. Now, what's happening up there in Ethiopia, I talked about this like a while back. There's fighting between federal forces and those that are loyal to the ruling party of the unsettled province, right? And it's been very chaotic and bitter. Hundreds have been killed, combatants and civilians. Many thousands are forced to flee their homes. So there's regional and international powers are kind of looking on to see what's happening with increased anxiety as violence threatens the stability of one of Africa's most fragile regions. Now, Abiy Ahmed, and that's the Ethiopian prime minister, and he told his 110 million countrymen and women 5 days ago, well now it should be 7 days ago, right, about a week ago, okay, that there'll be one final and crucial offensive, and it was imminent, right, and this aimed to secure Mekelle, the highland capital of Tigray, okay. Then it was implied that Abiy and other senior Ethiopian officials called a law enforcement operation would be over. So Abiy's strategic aim is to oust Tigray's ruling party, the Tigray People's Liberation Front, which went ahead with elections this year after national polls had been postponed due to coronavirus. So the move followed a long series of increasingly acrimonious disputes between the Tigray People's Liberation Front, or the TPLF, which says it has been unfairly marginalized since Abiy took power 2 years ago, and the central government. So Abiy has repeatedly said he has no grudge against the Tigrayans, only their criminal leadership, and that he sees them all as equal citizens of a federal Ethiopia. So many, not all though, but many think that, or many of the Tigrayans doubt this, and they claim that Abiy is set on a brutal reimposition of central government's authority with implications for all of Ethiopia's regions and ethnicities. Okay. Second thing, which is much, much better news, but we definitely need to pray for these things going on around the world. But this is kind of what Michelle Lamb realized yesterday from yesterday's final segment. It was quite amazing when you line up the dates, and she said like, well, if it's according to Noah's time, then there's something going to happen November 23rd, right? And lo and behold, new vaccine. Right? So, guys, we know that the first vaccine, which was Pfizer, came out with 90% efficacy and which turned to 95%. So they're getting ready to be approved. And then you had 7 days later, which it follows Noah's timeline. 7 days later, then Moderna came out. Right? And Moderna came out with theirs 94.5% effective rate. And then the next one, there's like, well, there's supposed to be something happening November 23rd. I'm not sure what it is, but it came out. The new vaccine from AstraZeneca in the UK holds 90% effective. And in the interim analysis of late stage trials of AstraZeneca's coronavirus vaccine, it found that it prevented about 70% of cases with no serious adverse effects. Okay, and this is what the company announced on Monday. But then, in 8,895 participants who got 2 full doses, the efficacy was only 62%. But that was due to a dosing error that proved to be a very good incident or accident. So among 2,741 volunteers who got half dose followed by full dose, the efficacy rose to 90%. So Pfizer and Moderna reported that their vaccines are about 95% effective at preventing illness, but AstraZeneca's vaccine is cheaper, easier to make, and can be stored at normal refrigerator temperatures, which is way better and much cheaper, right? So, investment analysts at SVB Leerink said that Astra's vaccine was unlikely to gain U.S. approval. Why? Because the safety data so far are inadequate and the trial design did not meet U.S. requirements for representation of high-risk groups such as the elderly and minorities. So, AstraZeneca, it plans to seek approval to modify its U.S. study to get more data on the smaller initial dose. So, eventually, all 3 vaccines could prove comparable. Okay, so there's an immunologist named Danny Altman of Imperial College in London said his suspicion is that by the time we're a year down the line, we'll be using all 3 vaccines with about 90% protection, right? So this coronavirus reinfection in this AstraZeneca study, they say the reinfection appears unlikely for at least 6 months, which is great. Okay, so there it goes, another thing shot off from the same timeline as Noah. They all came 7 days right after each other, and they expected one yesterday, and they got it. And that was the news. AstraZeneca, a third vaccine, has come out with 90% efficacy, which is great. Okay, just a quick update on the U.S. elections. Where it comes to Trump's lawsuit, Sidney Powell was someone who was like gearing up to like destroy the entire the government basically with all the voter fraud. But what happened was all of a sudden the Trump legal team said that Sidney Powell is not working officially on the Trump team in any capacity. So now there's tons of confusion, and people who like on both sides are like, things are coming out. Like Trump's side, like the Republicans are like, what's going on? And they're all screaming like, oh, what's happening, right? What, is this another conspiracy? Whatever it is. And then on the flip side, you had the Democrats and the mainstream media saying, oh, you see, they have, it's so unproven, and this is a sign that the legal team is not doing well, They don't have enough, right? So if you guys know, Sidney Powell is the one that worked on Michael Flynn's case, and she's really, really good. But there's lots of confusion because she was the one that keeps bringing these huge allegations of widespread voter fraud. Votes are switched in masses. Trump won in a landslide. These machines are like, corruption, yada, yada, yada. Right? So lots of speculation coming out from news outlets and from both sides that she's kicked out because she cannot possibly have evidence to show that these outrageous allegations could be true. However, if we look at those that are closest to Sidney Powell, there's another story. And the biggest reason why there's a split, well, number one is true. Number two is everything mainly has to do with finance. They want to split finance, meaning, money, as in there are two separate fundraising campaigns. There's a Trump fundraising campaign for the lawsuits, and then Sidney Powell has her own, right? So what happens is there's confusion because they're doing those press briefings together, so they think it's all together, but she has her separate financial backing. So what's happening is people are getting confused, like, oh, if we donate to here, isn't the same as donating to her, or they think donating to her is the same as donating to Trump's lawsuit. So they wanted to specify, but also what news came out is Trump is not saying she's not with them. So Trump says he supports her to investigate anything she wishes. She gets her freedom. She gets to discuss with Trump's legal team also. But she's focusing, it seems like, on something really, really big, because it's about widespread international voter fraud. Right? The difference between her and Giuliani is on Trump's lawsuit team is Trump's lawsuit team is on the clock. Basically, they need to get things done right now and right away, because there's not much time before December 14th to take everything to the Supreme Court, right? So he's focusing only on 5 to 6 states, where her lawsuit does not have a time limit. It doesn't have one. She could bring it 2 months later and it's still fine, because hers is a very huge criminal thing that's happening, right? So, she basically said that her lawsuit is supposed to blow up the state and at a biblical proportion, right? So the first state she says she's going to blow up is going to be Georgia. So she'll be filing the lawsuit by today, and it's supposed to be shocking new allegations that no one has ever heard of. Interestingly enough, Twitter suspended her account for 12 hours for some reason. We're not really sure about this, but we also know that Twitter and Facebook just had their hearings last week too about censoring people in an unfair and biased manner. Which one is right? Evidence will show it in the end, right? So the one thing we do need to know is we have to wait until the end. We cannot assume. So for me, I'm not taking any sides. When it comes out, it comes out. When the evidence comes out, it comes out. And then from there, we can say, oh, okay, this makes sense or this doesn't make sense. So this is just kind of an update. So great news where there's a third vaccine, 90% effective. We had the Ethiopian conflicts may reach a bloody end, so it's something we really need to pray for over there in Africa. And then, of course, U.S. election updates with a lot of confusion with Sidney Powell being, it seems that she was denounced, but she's not being denounced. Okay, so that is today's current news. So what do we have next? It is a time for praise and worship, giving glory to the Holy Trinity. And it's a time all of us here together on the Morning Star Drive can praise and worship God together. And we got a couple songs lined up for us. The first one is Everything God Has Given. And then, of course, like the Tuesday morning message, we're going to talk about prayer's work, as Sunseem said. And last one is I Believe. So let's spend this time giving glory to the Holy Trinity.
Like the do, just as things get done when you make effort. Pray and what you ask will be granted if your prayers meet God's heart. You should pray not just for yourself, but pray for your brothers, nation, and world. Pray sincerely, pray daily. It's the work you must surely do. God the Spirit and the Son want to grant your earnest prayers, and finally, at the right time, they will grant what you ask. Through your prayers, everything is fulfilled. Pray till you know that your prayers are completed. Prayer is work just as fruit grows, ripening over time. 40 days, 70 days, 110 days. You should pray until the end. God receives all prayers, He hears them and responds with joy. Through prayer we solve problems. Through prayer and conversation, we can resolve everything. Never give up, just believe and be sure to pray till the end. Through prayer you will see wonders. Yes, prayer is true power. When we were harmonious, God held back the tide, as He did that time in Mong Sampo. Then the Lord gave the word, speaking to crowds on the beach. He taught about the final days there before the crowds in Malaysia. Port Dixon, the waters ceased to rise. God, He came when we prayed. Power comes each time we pray, comes with the word of the Lord. Power comes each time we preach, run till you reach the end. As I am walking on this road that leads to the city of gold, the Lord's sail is planted in my center, and on the Lord's wings I will rapture higher. I believe that the will has been fulfilled. I believe that my spirit rose with Him. I believe I'm living in the city of gold, and in this life I will always give thanks as I rise towards that place. With the condition of the Lord, God's dream finally came true. As for me, I'll walk this path unchanging. I'll do what I must, and I'll never turn back. I believe that the will has been fulfilled. I believe that my spirit rose with Him. I believe I'm living in the city of gold, and in this life I will always give thanks as I rise towards that place. I look only to the Lord. I'll fulfill the will and live by His word. And if harsh winds may blow, I will stand ever strong. God's will I shall fulfill. I believe we have gained the victory. I believe as time passes all we'll see. I believe I'll stand firm even though the wind may blow, never shaken. I'll fulfill heaven's will. God's history of love has won. God's history of love has won.
And that was that wonderful song, I Believe. I believe. Do 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 do. Yeah, that's one of those songs that you can sing anywhere. Yeah, I believe. The song before that was like that 5-in-1 song. 5 songs just smashed into one. That was Prayer's Work. Just epic song. Of course, that fun song, Everything God Has Given. So this brings us into a time of the word study for the Tuesday pre-dawn message. And actually, you know what I found out too, guys? I'm going to do this maybe tomorrow then. But I realized that there was a connection with the Western countries on Sunday, but I'm thinking to myself, wait a second, most of these people in Southeast Asia have never even heard this. I know the Americans heard it, right? And then there was a leaders meeting with Pastor Joan after that. So, I'm going to share that word probably tomorrow then, so that everyone can know what Sunseam said during the time. It was really deep. It was so good going deep into this week's message. But either way, I will go into that for tomorrow's. Right, tomorrow's I will go into for tomorrow's. I guess it'd be another word study. What Sunseam talked about during the word connection, and also what Pastor Joan talked about too. Really, really good stuff. All right, so let's get into a time of word study for the Tuesday pre-dawn message. A lot of juicy tidbits. It was a lot shorter than I thought, because Sunseam did say on Sunday that since there is, last night was the great songs, right? So I was expecting there to be a longer pre-dawn service, but it was actually really short. I think it was like 30 minutes, right? It was something really, really short. I was really shocked that it was that short, right? But a couple things that really came out, and it puts things into perspective of the life that we're living. And that one is at the very, very end. A lot of the points at the very end was like, wow, yeah, that makes so much sense. Like he says, it is so much easier to evangelize in Christianity. Why? Because it's so easy to make friends. Look at the difference between marrying someone and making friends with someone, right? It's so different. Why? You make friends with tons of people, but you don't marry every person you meet, right? You don't marry everyone. And that's kind of what this history is like. This history is not about just making friends with people. Much more than anything else it's like we're marrying. We're marrying people. And we are doing the works, right? And we are making people into God's lover. When you think about it that way, it's way different, because now we have to think like the parable's perfect, because we think to ourselves, oh, come on, making friends is just making friends. And some people even have a hard time making friends, right? But imagine it's someone you want to marry. It's the process, the thought process, attitude, just everything is so different. And it's something that we cannot do by ourselves, but it's something we have to do together. And I was really thinking about this, like, wow, it's so true. It really is true. Because, we look at Christianity sometimes and we see like every weekend, like I went to Hillsong Church when I visited that church several times when I was head leading in New York. We were 3 blocks away from the Hillsong Church, 8,000 people in the church. And it's like 4 or 5 services on Sunday. I'm serious, guys, 4 to 5 services on Sunday. Okay? And when I'm watching, at the end, in the church, they have the altar call, like, oh, if you want to accept Jesus into your heart, and everyone's eyes are closed, and music's playing, and then people's, crying and stuff like that. And every time, there is like 100 people that put their hands up. 100. I'm like, where are they getting these people from? Every week. Every time I went, there was always like 100 people and that's just one of the services. So if you have 5 services, that's going to be like 500 people per week. I'm just like, what the heck? And I'd always think like, oh, come on. Look at them. They're doing it so easily. Like, what are we doing wrong? And the answer is, it's nothing we're doing wrong. It's way different. It's so different. We're not here to make friends. Well, I'm not saying like literally, we're not, don't make friends, just make lovers. No, we're not. I'm not saying that. It's so much easier to make friends. And that kind of brought things into perspective. It really did. Like a bunch of things he talked about at the end put a lot of things into perspective. Because I seen the exact same thing when Sunstein was shocked at how much people loved lives. That people would love a life, put so much into them, and then they wouldn't stay or they'd leave. And then this person who was taking care of them wouldn't come to church. Because they're so shocked. They love this person, put so much into them, and they love these lives so much. But then when these lives didn't work out well, they would leave too. They're so shocked by it. And it's so true, if you think about it. These people love lives that much. I've seen these people put so much into these people. And when it doesn't work out, they're just exhausted. They don't come to church. And for us, we'd be like, what? How, what? Come on. You can't just leave church. But like Sunstein's thinking so different. Like, wow, he's shocked how much they love lives. Right? So I thought that was really, really a great point that was made too. It's a different perspective of seeing it. Much, much different than what we're used to. What do you guys think about the finance? I was really shocked by that too. He's giving financial advice. He's truly, like from last week, he said, no, I'm not. Was it this week or last week? He said, no, it is last week. Let's talk about the path. The Lord is the eternal path, right? Where it's like, I'm not just the path of religion. I'm the path of business. I'm the path of finance. I'm the path of music, right? And we're like, oh, okay. But yeah, he's seriously telling us, hey, use your finance in an efficient way. Then you're not going to have any issues. So always save 1/3. Like, ooh, yeah, save 1/3. And then he puts it into loving lives. He said, love lives 70 and keep 30. I'm like, whoa, right? So, one of the things that could be a problem is people may be putting on like 90 to 100% and put nothing for themselves, and they lose themselves in the process, right? That could be a big possibility too, right? So when I looked at that, I was like, wow, that's quite interesting also. So we have to understand that, we just like our finances, think about that, guys. That's a great ratio. Save 30%. So look at your finances and start saving 30%, guys, if you can, unless you're well below the poverty line, right? Obviously, you can't save anything, but we have to live within our means and use our finances efficiently. And I guess that would also kind of work towards, like, we know when a lot of people invest and put their own money into like taking newcomers out to eat or drinks or whatever it is, like, of the disposable income you have to spend, don't spend 100% on these newcomers. Not 100%, guys, right? So it's a great ratio that when Sunsteam says do it 100%, he doesn't mean 100% of the 100%. Do the 100% of the 70%, if that makes sense, guys. If we're supposed to put in 70%, then put in 100% of that 70%. And I thought that was really, really amazing advice. I thought that was really cool, right? Yeah, what about the story with the bird? Like, I thought that was I remember the story he talked about when he was in, like, he brought up the story when he was in Mongolia, right? When the magpies found it. But I was like, wow, this happened again. Like, this is not a coincidence. Like, find that bird. And, but it's so amazing how the realization comes right after. And I'm going to share a realization I had too, just yesterday. Also, something else happened with my car. It's so different. But the more and more we learn the way Sunsteam does it, how he realizes we have to do it the same thing. We can't just think alone like, oh crap, that happened, darn, and then no, God's speaking to us at all times, right? And with the bird, he says, take care of lives when they're around you, not when they leave, right? A lot of people, I've heard this before too, from members. They're like, no one cares about us until there's something wrong. It's like, there's something wrong, and then all the leaders start flocking to you. But when things are normal, things are good, no one says anything to you. And I think, we have to take care of people when they're around, not just when they're not doing well, not just when they leave. And, that's just a bad way of doing things. We should be taking care of people when they're doing good, having a good time, having a fun time, eating good food together and stuff like that too, right? So just like that bird that flew away, God, don't just in the message in the pre-dawn, it was like, that person taking care of the bird wasn't taking care of it when it was around, but then they cared more about it when it left, and they prayed and they prayed and they prayed. But we should be doing those prayers and taking care of these people while they're around too, right? Even more. Yeah. And wow, like everything has to do, it's the crazy part is like everything has to do with what is literally happening in his life, like transplanting trees. That one part that was really, really, is when he said, some people die in the midst of being evangelized because of a lack of skill, right? So there are some people that should stay. There are people that God wants, but they leave because the people taking care of them are lacking skill. I'm not saying it's all situations, but yeah, people lacking skill. That's a big reason. And the example he gave is it was that expert taking care of that tree after transplanting, and they were all praying for it, making sure that the soil was good, giving it water, giving all the different things it needs for that tree to survive. And it needs extra special care when it's being transplanted. Then he goes even deeper, and he's like, and you were transplanted into this history. Your roots were deep into it's the perfect parable. Your roots were deep into the world. You had to cut off those roots and be replanted. And that is something that needs to be carefully done. And you have to be taken care of really well, right? And, or people will die. Like, think about that. When we are bringing people into this history, their roots are deep into the world. Right? The way that they see the opposite sex, the way that they talk to each other, the way that they get mad or yell or they don't forgive or whatever it is, that their roots, they're learning deep from the world, and they have to cut off those roots and be replanted, transplanted into this history, which means we need to have expert care when these people come in. Not you're a newcomer and we treat them so well, then once they come in, we kind of leave them alone, go to the next newcomer. We have to be the ones that really, really take care of these people being transplanted into this history. We must become experts, because some of these people are going to die in the process of evangelism because of a lack of skill. So we have to understand this shimjung of the Savior, like pulling someone who's about to drift away in the water from the current, realize about lives, and then you're going to want to do it. You're going to want to pull them out. You're going to want to take care of them, right? And we have to be those that are absolutely responsible for our own health, right? The health of these lives, not just our own. And I you know, what does Sunday say? 90%. We got to be in charge of our lives 90%. And that has to do with what? Do your basic faith correctly. Pray and seek Him. Be responsible. Take part together. Do things as the Lord's body. Do the basic faith correctly. And as weird as that sounds, it's basic, right? It's almost like, oh, how do you chew? You're like, dude, that's basic. How do you walk? Dude, that's basic, right? Walking and talking and writing and reading, these are all basic things. And that's what basic faith is, right? The praying, the pre-dawn, the reading the words, going over the words as much as possible, right? And I really hope that this will be something that that we will really be able to do well, okay? So that last point, the one I liked a lot, really, from the very beginning, was when he said that people have such limitations that we can see the front and the sides well, but we just can't see our back, and this is why we need each other. So we need people to help us. So I really hope that all of us too realize that, yeah, we can't do it alone. We really have to do it together. So I hope that that will be something that will really put into perspective that, hey, we're here to help each other too. We're not alone on this. Okay, so I hope that everyone here too realizes that we all have the blind spots and we have to help each other with those things. And just as God proactively takes care of lives, or else they're going to die, right? He said, well, what did he say? He said, in a year, right? In a year, if God doesn't help, it's done. Like the whole world will be empty. So in the same way, think about it, is if we don't take care of each other, then people could be done, right? When you're driving, help them out. If they miss a sign, be attentive. They don't fall asleep. These are things that we're supposed to help each other with. Okay, so I'm glad. I'm very glad also that I'm able to help through this podcast in many other people's lives, and that we can be those that can do it for other people too. All right, everyone, have an amazing, I hope you guys had an amazing time listening to this word study, and that means we're going to move over to the next section, which is the song of choice for today. Now, this type of music we're going to listen to right here, it's from a DJ. I think it's a British DJ. Okay, British DJ, his name is Sigala. And then there's also a British singer-songwriter, his name is James Arthur. And this song is from both of them. It's called Lasting Lover. And this type of music, I don't really normally listen to. I don't, right? And this was released in September near my birthday, right? And it basically, it was released digitally, okay, on streaming platforms. And it was like top 10 in the UK singles chart and stuff like that, in the US dance electronic chart too. It's called Lasting Lover. I'm not usually into this music, but this one was kind of cool and I really liked it. So I hope you guys will enjoy this. This is Sigala and James Arthur with the song Lasting Lover.
I don't know why I can't quite get you out my sight. You're always just behind. These thoughts cross my mind. Keep crawling back to where we left our love on hold. I'm always out for more. So what you waiting for? Wait before you burn me to the ground. Please stay till the beat of my heart runs out. I don't wanna let
that was Sagala and James Arthur with the song Lasting Lover. I hope you guys enjoyed that song. It's a dance song, so I hope that it kind of made you want to move, right, and become a lasting lover to the Holy Trinity. And this brings us into the last section for today. And yes, I told you I have another life experience that happened yesterday, and it's really something that's on my mind. But, God was speaking to me, and I had a good realization. Okay, so remember a couple weeks ago I was telling you about the time that my car got towed. I'm in the same area, okay, guys? So ever since that time, I never park illegally because I'm like, I want no chance for me to be towed again. So I even if there's no parking, I'm going somewhere else. I don't care. I'm not going to sit there and wait. I'm just going to find another cafe or a place to go because I'm not going to illegally park. So even yesterday, did not illegally park, searched around, even though everyone, and of course I'm exaggerating, everyone in the world, okay, no, not the world, but everyone in Malaysia, okay, not everyone in Malaysia, but still everyone was illegal parking. I hated it. I was like, how come none of them get towed, right? But either way, I was like, okay, they're all parking illegally, but I will not do that. So I found a nice parking spot, went to a cafe, worked on the podcast, and then I came out, my car was still there. Happy, good. So I was like, I gotta get some lunch. So I go over to just a little bit down more, find another, not illegal parking, legally parked. And I pull in, I'm like, wow, God, you really love me. I have this new parking spot. No illegal parking. This is great. So I went inside and I went to get something to eat. And after I got something to eat, I come back out and I was like, should I go back to my car? And you know what? I deserve a chocolate bar. So I go down and get myself a chocolate bar. And then I come back to the car. And I get into my car and I pull the car and I'm driving. And as I'm driving, I see something flapping on my windshield. Like, what is that? And I look, it is a freaking parking ticket. And I was like, what? I'm like, no, it's gotta be a parking ticket. This gotta be something else. Cause I'm not illegally parked. There's no way I have a parking ticket. I'm like, no way. There's something wrong. And I was so, not angry, but I was like, what? You gotta be kidding me. I was so careful today. I didn't park illegally. What did I do? And I let it flap. Right? And I wasn't going to stop to pick it up. I was just like, forget it, right? I just let it hang on my windshield. I got home and I took the parking ticket and I went to one of the members who I'm living with and I said, hey, this is all written in a different language. What am I getting a ticket for? They're like, oh, you didn't pay the parking meter. And I was like, oh my gosh. I was, I was so careful with all the other different things. And I was just like, what? And I was like, oh, right. And, it's kind of like what Sunseam said in the message on Tuesday, right? His realization that people don't really take care of themselves that well. Right? They don't really, they're not in detail taking care of themselves. And, of course, the thoughts that came to my mind was, oh, man, I was so busy just trying not to illegally park. I completely forgot about paying for parking. Right? And, these are just, and we could look at it in a couple ways gosh, God, one problem happens, I solve one problem, and then another problem happens. Man, God, why is life, we could complain about this in this way, but reality is, it's a normal thing. Paying parking, isn't that normal? It's not nothing above normal, is it? When you go into a parking lot to pay for parking, is there really something that's abnormal? And it's not. It's a normal thing. It's just that I was so focused on one thing. Where, Sunseam says you have to focus on 2 to 3 different things. Right? You have to make sure, do it 100%. Make sure you have everything down, right? But the only thing I was focused on is making sure that I'm not illegally parked. And because I was so focused, my blinders were on, I couldn't see the other things. And you know what's even crazy? I'm going to tell you guys this is even crazy. I talked about this at the beginning of the podcast too, is this. I was getting revelations God was giving me revelations even before I left to go to park. Because what was happening was, before I went, there was another member. I told you, remember, they were commenting and saying, "Oh, Pastor Sky, your yesterday's podcast still says November 23rd and the 180th episode when it should be November 24th and the 181st." I was like, "Oh, just these small things, right?" The big stuff was done. I got the podcast done, I edited it, I loaded it, and it was just the title with these 2 small mistakes that most people probably didn't even notice, right? Because all you're looking at is MSD Tuesday, MSD Wednesday, right? And that's, that's kind of, no one's really looking at the date after that, right? But it was these little things, and I was like, oh, and these 2 things, they didn't happen at the same time. The same person said, oh, the date's wrong. It's like, oh, okay, I'll change it. And then like 20 minutes later, like, oh, also the episode is wrong. It's like, oh, really? And small, minor details. And I got all the big things done, but the small things I didn't. And even for myself, getting your car towed is a huge thing. That is like here in Malaysia, it's 310 ringgit, which is a lot of money, right? That's like $50 US. No. It's like 310 is 75 US dollars for that towing, okay? Which is much cheaper than the US, but it's still expensive here. And this parking ticket I got today is only 20 ringgit. It's a very, very small ticket compared to the other one, right? I got the big things taken care of, but the small things I didn't take care of very well, right? I wasn't thinking about those things and I got caught. And even though it's a small ticket, it hurts. It still hurts because I'm just getting over this towing and the car, the engine that had a problem. I'm just like, gosh, like what the heck? Like all these things are like, I'm getting fixed and putting money into it. And then, if we don't take care of these things well, these small things could be like the straw that breaks the camel's back, that small thing that just takes you over the edge. And I realized, we really need to take, especially this week, don't look at things in such a small way. Don't just look at the big things. Look at multiple things at the same time and make sure you take care of every aspect and every point. And it's exactly what God said in Tuesday message. What did he say? He said, I am making sure you're taking care of you all the time, even if it's just 10%, right? We're taking, remember God said we're 90% responsible for ourselves, 90%, which means God's only 10%, but he's doing everything in his 10%, making sure and watching even the smallest things, or we could all vanish and disappear. We could all die. So I really hope that us too will be able to not, look at the things that you're doing. Don't just look at the big things, but look at the small things. Like look at the things that you should be doing that are very normal, but because we're so focused on one thing, we lose sight of the other things also. Okay? So super happy and thankful that God gave me this message, even though it's another 20 ringgit ticket. Either way. So grateful and thankful for all of you joining me here. It is a wonderful Wednesday, and I hope that you guys will really, really enjoy this time with the great songs tonight. And wait, was I? Okay, no, I'm trying to think to myself. Was I talking like the great songs was the night before? No, great songs is tonight. It's not yesterday, it's tonight, right? It is tonight, yeah, it's Wednesday. Either way, sorry if I mix that up. Yeah, the great songs wasn't last night. The great songs is tonight, all right? Everyone have an amazing service tonight. Hope you guys will do everything together with the Lord and the Holy Spirit. And we will see you again tomorrow on the Morning Star Drive on 117.8.
It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this. I got my head in the zone, I'm on the Morning Star Drive, I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when